First contact and deception. The observation deck of Lunar Defense Station Alpha offered the best view in the Sol system. Captain Elena Reyes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as the massive alien vessel dropped out of FTL on the edge of Neptune's orbit. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent blue-green sheen that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "They're early," said Commander Takahashi, checking his tablet. The Galactic Assembly delegation wasn't expected for another 12 hours. Elena nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the approaching ship. "They're making a statement, showing off that they can navigate our system better than our projections suggested." She turned to her XO. "Make sure everyone is in position. I want our best face forward, but security protocols remain at level 2. "Yes, Captain." Within an hour, the assembly ship had taken up position in high Earth orbit. It dwarfed the International Space Platform, humanity's proudest achievement in space, making the kilometer-long structure look like a child's toy by comparison. The communications officer's voice cracked over the comm. "Captain, we're receiving a request for docking clearance at the ISP. They're sending a shuttle down with the diplomatic team." Elena straightened her midnight blue uniform. "Signal Earth Command, tell them I'm on my way to the platform." The shuttle from the assembly ship was sleek and silent, docking with the ISP without a whisper of engines or a hint of radiation. When the airlock cycled open, Elena stood waiting with Admiral Chen and the Secretary General of the United Nations. The aliens that emerged were bipedal, but clearly not human. Their skin ranged from pearl white to deep azure, with angular features and large multifaceted eyes that reminded Elena of insect eyes, though much more expressive. The leader stepped forward nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered between turquoise and silver. "I am High Emissary Zorlak of the Galactic Assembly," the alien said, the universal translator converting the series of clicks and whistles into smooth English. "We bring greetings from the 97 species of our Union." The Secretary General stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, welcome to our home. I am Secretary General Nguyen, and this is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force and Captain Reyes, commander of our lunar defense operations." Zorlak's eyes scanned over them, lingering on the military officers. "We are pleased to make contact with your species. Our preliminary scans indicate your civilization has achieved remarkable progress for its age." The diplomatic niceties continued for hours. The aliens were polite but clearly holding themselves at a distance, treating the humans like curious children who had managed to create something impressive but ultimately primitive. It wasn't until the 3rd day of negotiations that the conversation turned to military matters. "We would be interested in observing your defense capabilities," said Commander Zrel, the military attaché of the delegation. "It is standard procedure for assessing new potential members of the Assembly." Admiral Chen hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Of course. Captain Reyes will provide you with a tour of our orbital defense network and our flagship tomorrow." The next day, Elena led the alien delegation through the massive hangar bay where Earth's most advanced warship, the UESS Defender, was docked for maintenance. The vessel was nearly 2 kilometers long, with visible weapon ports and thick armor plating. Its engines glowed with the blue light of fusion reactors. "This is our newest vessel," Elena explained, unable to hide the pride in her voice. "The Defender can reach 15% of light speed and maintain operations away from Earth for up to 7 years without resupply." Commander Zrel walked slowly around the observation deck, all 4 of his eyes scanning the human ship. The translator was silent, but Elena noticed the subtle change in the alien skin patterns as they communicated among themselves. Her implanted language processor, not revealed to the aliens, picked up fragments of their conversation. "Still using reaction drives and physical weapons," one junior officer whispered. "My hatchlings play with more advanced technology." Zrel nodded slightly. "Quaint, aren't they? I haven't seen exposed heat radiators on a warship in millennia. One decent particle beam would slice through their hull like vapor." "The Council can't seriously consider them for membership," another asked. "They're barely interplanetary. The Assembly always accepts developing species," Zrel replied. "These primitives will make excellent buffer territory against the Void Swarm. Their resources are valuable, even if their technology is not. Elena kept her face carefully neutral as she recorded the conversation through her implant. The tour continued to several other vessels and Earth's orbital defense platforms. With each stop, she noted the same reaction from the aliens, polite interest that barely concealed condescension. When the tour ended, she waited until the alien delegation returned to their shuttle before approaching Admiral Chen's secure office. On the station. "They think we're primitive," she reported, playing back the recorded conversation. "And they mentioned something called the Void Swarm." Admiral Chen's expression darkened as he listened. "Buffer territory," he repeated, his voice tight with controlled anger. "What should we do, sir?" Elena asked. "Should we inform the Secretary General?" Chen was silent for a long moment, staring at the holographic display showing the vast assembly territory compared to Earth's single system. "No," he finally said. "We'll accept their offer of membership." "But sir, what happens when someone underestimates you, Captain?" Elena straightened. "They let their guard down, sir." "Exactly." The Admiral nodded. "We'll continue to show them exactly what they expect to see. A young, eager species grateful for their advanced knowledge." He tapped his secure terminal and brought up a classified file labeled Trojan Horse. "Meanwhile, I'm authorizing immediate implementation of Operation Trojan Horse. Contact General Okonkwo and the heads of all primary shipyards. Tell them it's time." "Time for what, sir?" Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile. "The real fleet. Captain, the one we built hoping we'd never need it." As the assembly delegation prepared their official membership offer the next week, completely unaware that their private conversations had been understood, deep beneath the surface of Mars and within the asteroids of the Kuiper Belt, massive, hidden shipyards began powering up. The humans had been preparing for this moment since they first detected signals from space nearly a century ago. The aliens had laughed at Earth's ancient fleet. Soon enough, they would learn why it was built to look that way. 6 months passed quickly after Earth joined the Galactic Assembly. Humans began to appear on various assembly worlds, eager to learn and trade. Most were diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives carefully selected by Earth's government. They appeared humble and grateful for the advanced knowledge shared by the older species. Ambassador Maya Patel smoothed her formal gray suit as she prepared to enter her first Galactic Council meeting. A tall woman with sharp eyes, she had once been a top strategic advisor before being chosen to represent humanity to the stars. "Remember," her assistant whispered, "speak only when addressed directly. First cycle members are expected to observe and learn." Maya nodded slightly, her face showing appropriate respect while revealing nothing of her thoughts. The massive doors of the council chamber opened, revealing a vast circular room with representatives from across the galaxy. The walls displayed real-time views of surrounding space, making it appear as if the meeting were happening among the stars themselves. Maya took her assigned seat, noting that new members were placed at the very outer edge of the circle, far from the influential center. The council leader, a tall being from one of the founding species, called the meeting to order. Maya listened carefully as they discussed trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and minor border disputes. Then the tone of the meeting changed when a red alert signal flashed across the main display. "We now address the Void Swarm situation," the council leader announced, their voice solemn. "The threat assessment team will present their updated report." A military officer stepped forward, bringing up a holographic map of a sector of the galaxy. Red markers showed the movement of the Void Swarm through several star systems. "The swarm continues its expansion," the officer reported. 4 outer rim systems have been completely consumed in the past cycle. Their current trajectory indicates they will enter the human sector within 30 standard days. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the map zoomed in, showing the projected path of the swarm invasion. Maya felt her heart race as she saw the red line pass directly through Earth's system. "What defense forces will be allocated to protect the human system?" she asked, rising from her seat. Several representatives turned to stare at her, surprised that a first cycle member would speak without being recognized. The council leader frowned slightly. "Ambassador Patel, Proper protocol requires that you submit inquiries through your sector representative. Forgive me, Maya said with a small bow, though she did not sit down. But the projection clearly shows my homeworld in the direct path of this threat. Surely this matter justifies some urgency. The military officer exchanged glances with the council leader before responding. The Assembly's primary battle fleets are positioned to protect core worlds and major trade routes. The outer regions, including your sector, are classified as peripheral territories. Peripheral? Maya repeated, her voice remarkably steady despite her rising anger. You mean sacrificial? An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Finally, a representative from one of the older species spoke up. Ambassador Patel, you must understand that the Assembly must prioritize resources. Your species has only one developed world and a handful of small colonies. The core worlds contain trillions of citizens from dozens of species. I understand completely, Maya replied. You intend to use Earth as a buffer to slow down the void swarm while you protect your core worlds. That is an unfortunate characterization, the council leader said smoothly. But strategic realities must be faced. After the meeting, Emissary Zorlak approached Maya in the corridor. The alien's skin had taken on a sympathetic bluish hue. Ambassador, if I might have a word in private, he said quietly. In a small meeting room, Zorlak spoke frankly. What you said in the council was true, though few would admit it so openly. The Assembly cannot spare resources to protect developing worlds against the void swarm. So you're abandoning Earth to fight alone, Maya stated. The swarm is unlike anything you have encountered, Zorlak said. They consume everything in their path, resources, technology, even living beings. No single developing world has ever successfully repelled them. What do you suggest we do? Maya asked. The Assembly can arrange emergency evacuation for your most valuable citizens, scientists, artists, key government officials. Perhaps 50,000 people could be relocated to the inner worlds. Maya stared at him in disbelief. Earth has nearly 11 billion people. I understand this is difficult, Zorlak said gently. But saving your species' knowledge and cultural achievements is better than losing everything. When Maya returned to Earth 3 days later, she immediately requested an emergency meeting with the Defense Council. In the underground war room beneath the Pacific Ocean, she delivered her report to Admiral Chen and the other military leaders. They've written us off, she concluded. They expect us to fall, and they won't lift a finger to help. Admiral Chen's face remained calm, but his eyes showed cold determination. Thank you, Ambassador. Your information confirms what our intelligence has already suggested. What intelligence? Maya asked, looking around the room. General Okonkwo, a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair, activated the central display. It showed detailed schematics of the void swarm ships and their movement patterns. We've had stealth observation drones following the swarm for months, she explained. Our analysis suggests the Assembly has significantly underestimated the threat. The swarm isn't just consuming systems, they're building something massive. How did we get observation drones out that far? Maya asked. Our ships don't have that range. The room fell silent as the military leaders exchanged glances. Finally, Admiral Chen nodded to Captain Elena Reyes. Ambassador, Elena began. What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. She activated a different display showing technical specifications that Maya didn't recognize. Since first detection of alien signals a century ago, Earth has been preparing contingencies. The fleet we showed the Assembly was exactly what they expected to see. Primitive fusion-powered ships with limited capabilities. But that's not our real fleet. The ships we showed them are functional, but they're essentially decoys, Admiral Chen added. The real UEDF fleet has been hidden in deep space construction yards beyond Pluto. Maya stared at the schematics in shock. These are far beyond what we supposedly have. How did we develop this technology? Parallel development, General Okonkwo explained. While the world believed we were just mastering fusion propulsion, classified programs were developing entirely different approaches. We've created technology that doesn't follow the same evolutionary path as the assemblies, but it's just as effective, maybe more so against the Void Swarm. Admiral Chen stood up. Ambassador Patel, I'm officially activating Operation Trojan Horse. While the assembly thinks we're preparing for evacuation, we'll be mobilizing our hidden fleet. He looked at each person in the room, his eyes burning with quiet intensity. The Void Swarm and the Galactic Assembly are about to learn a hard lesson: never judge a species by the technology they choose to show you. The revelation in battle. The first sign of the Void Swarm's arrival was the sudden silence of the deep space monitoring stations orbiting Pluto. One by one, the automated outposts went dark as the vast alien armada pushed into the outer reaches of the solar system. On Earth, populations had been moved to underground shelters, massive complexes built over decades in preparation for this day. To the Galactic Assembly observers still present on the planet, it appeared that humanity was scrambling in panic, preparing for inevitable defeat or a desperate evacuation. In orbit, Earth's defensive fleet took up positions around the planet, 30 vessels that the Assembly had thoroughly inspected and dismissed as primitive. High Emissary Zorlak had departed 3 days earlier, taking with him the last evacuation ship carrying 5,000 selected humans, mostly scientists, artists, and government officials who had been carefully chosen for their dual roles as intelligence operatives within Assembly space. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the Defender, watching as the tactical display showed the swarm's methodical advance through the system. They had already consumed the research stations near Pluto, using the materials to create more of their biomechanical ships. Neptune Outpost reports the swarm will reach them in 6 hours, her communications officer announced. They're initiating Protocol Omega. Elena nodded grimly. Protocol Omega, the deliberate self-destruction of the outpost after transmitting all collected data. No human would be captured by the swarm. Message from Admiral Chen, the officer continued. Operation Trojan Horse is now active. Authentication code Odysseus. Elena felt a surge of fierce anticipation. Send acknowledgement. All ships, prepare for strategic withdrawal to rally Point Athena. The Earth fleet began moving away from the planet in what would appear to any observer as a retreat. The Assembly's monitoring satellites tracked their movement, transmitting data back to the Council. The primitive humans were abandoning their homeworld, just as expected. What the satellites couldn't see were the energy signatures flaring to life in the darkness, beyond Mars, in the asteroid belt, and in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moons. One by one, shipyards hidden for decades powered up, their stealth systems deactivating as they released their contents. In the Council chamber, the representatives of the Assembly watched with detached interest as the holographic display showed Earth's small fleet scattering before the advancing swarm. The humans are retreating faster than projected, noted the military attaché. Their vessels have separated and appear to be fleeing in multiple directions. The Council leader nodded. Regrettable but expected. Their civilization was too young to stand against the swarm. Prepare to analyze the consumption patterns. We need to update our models on how quickly the swarm will advance toward the buffer sectors. A junior officer approached with a data tablet. High Council, we're detecting anomalous energy readings from multiple locations in the human system. Specify, ordered the Council leader. Unknown power signatures activating throughout the system, hundreds of them. They don't match any known assembly or swarm technology. The holographic display flickered, then expanded to show new data. Throughout the Sol system, ships were appearing, not dozens, but hundreds. They emerged from hidden bases on Mars, from concealed shipyards in the asteroid belt, from beneath the icy surfaces of distant moons. These vessels bore no resemblance to the fusion-powered ships the humans had proudly displayed. They were sleek, angular constructions with no visible engines or weapon ports. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them appear as moving voids against the stars. "What are we seeing?" demanded one of the elder representatives. "Unknown vessels," the officer replied, confusion evident in his voice. "They appear to be human, back in the Sol system, Elena watched from the command deck of the Defender as the real human fleet took up formation. The ship's seemingly primitive exterior had served its purpose. Now, internal bulkheads retracted, armor plates shifted, and the vessel's true nature was revealed. A command and control center for the actual combat fleet. "All Spectre-class vessels report ready," her XO announced. "Ghost Fleet is in position. Phantom squadrons are moving to intercept the swarm's vanguard." Elena nodded, feeling a fierce pride as she watched the tactical display. The fruits of a century of secret development were finally being revealed. Ships with gravity manipulation drives that didn't rely on reaction mass. Weapons that targeted the quantum structure of matter itself. Defense systems that diverted energy through dimensions the assembly hadn't even theorized. Signal from Admiral Chen's flagship, the communications officer reported. Message reads, "Activate Medusa Protocol. Let them see us now." With that command, the human fleet fully deactivated their stealth systems. Energy signatures flared across the system as hundreds of ships, ranging from small, agile fighters to massive dreadnoughts, became visible to both the swarm and the assembly's monitoring systems. In the council chamber, chaos erupted as the display updated with new information. "Impossible," whispered the military attaché. "Where did they get this technology? We've monitored their development for decades." The council leader stared at the display in stunned silence. The human ships were not retreating. They were advancing, moving with precision to encircle the swarm forces. "The swarm is changing formation," reported an officer. They're breaking off their advance. Some vessels are attempting to withdraw." On the bridge of her ship, Elena watched as humanity's true technological capabilities were unleashed against the void swarm. The enemy had expected to find a primitive species with fusion rockets and kinetic weapons. Instead, they encountered quantum disruptors that unraveled their biomechanical ships at the subatomic level, gravity weapons that crushed entire squadrons into singularities, and defensive fields that existed partially in other dimensions. "The Seraphim Squadron reports successful deployment of the entropy cascade," her tactical officer announced. 40% of the swarm vanguard has been neutralized." Elena nodded, her face grim but satisfied. "Signal all ships. Execute Phase 2. Let's push them back beyond Neptune." The battle raged for 3 days as the human fleet methodically destroyed or drove back the void swarm. The assembly watched in growing astonishment as a supposedly primitive species demonstrated military technology that rivaled or exceeded their own. By the 4th day, the remnants of the swarm had been pushed beyond the heliopause, the boundary of the solar system. Quantum beacons were deployed to create an early warning network that would detect any future incursions. In the aftermath, a new diplomatic shuttle, one whose technology was no longer disguised, docked with the assembly's central station. Ambassador Maya Patel stepped out, accompanied by Admiral Chen and Captain Reyes. They were no longer wearing the simple uniforms that the assembly had seen before, but more advanced suits that seemed to shift and adapt to their movements. The council leader met them in the main chamber, the other representatives watching with a mixture of fear, respect, and outrage. "You deceived the assembly," the council leader stated, his skin flushing with anger patterns. "We protected ourselves," Maya replied calmly, "just as your people protected yourselves, by designating us as a buffer zone without our knowledge or consent." "The technology you displayed," began the military attaché. "Was exactly what you wanted to see," Admiral Chen interrupted. "You came to our system expecting primitives, and we showed you what you expected. Your assumptions became our shield." "For a century, we detected signals from space," Maya continued. "We knew we weren't alone, and we prepared. Some of us developed the technology you saw, functional but deliberate in its limitations. Others worked in secret, taking different paths, exploring possibilities your civilization overlooked because of your established technological trajectory." Captain Reyes stepped forward. "Your people scanned our ships and found exactly what you expected. Reaction drives, heat radiators, kinetic weapons. You never looked for quantum entanglement fields or dimensional phasing because those technologies weren't visible to the scanning methods you used. The council chamber had gone silent. Finally, a representative from one of the oldest species spoke up. "Why reveal yourselves now? You could have maintained this deception indefinitely." Maya smiled thinly. "Because the Void Swarm forced our hand, and because we're offering you a choice." She activated a handheld projector, displaying data about the recent battle. "Our analysis indicates the swarm has been consuming assembly worlds faster than you've acknowledged publicly. You're defensive. Strategies are failing because you've become technologically static, following the same development paths for millennia." Admiral Chen continued, "Humanity developed along different lines because we had to. We couldn't match your scale, so we innovated in directions you never explored. The swarm has never encountered our type of technology before. That's why we were able to repel them so effectively." "What are you proposing?" asked the council leader, his anger now tempered with cautious interest. "A genuine alliance," Maya answered. "Not as buffer and core, not as primitive and advanced, but as equals with complementary strengths. Our technology combined with your scale could finally end the swarm threat permanently." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives were outraged at the deception, others fascinated by the technological implications, and still others calculating the strategic advantages of a true alliance with these surprising humans. As the debate continued, Elena leaned closer to Admiral Chen. "Do you think they'll accept?" The Admiral watched the aliens arguing among themselves, a slight smile on his face. "They don't have much choice. They need our technology as much as we could use their established infrastructure. Besides," he added, "nothing unites like a common enemy." 3 months later, a combined human assembly fleet departed toward the heart of swarm territory. The ships moved in formation, the massive assembly carriers accompanied by smaller, more advanced human vessels. Technology was being shared, albeit cautiously, on both sides. On the bridge of the new flagship, the Phoenix, Captain Elena Reyes stood beside High Commander Zorlak, both watching as the fleet prepared to jump to FTL. "I still don't understand," Zorlak said quietly. "Your people spent a century developing technology in secret, knowing you were being observed. You could have revealed yourselves at any time, demanded respect, even conquered some of our outer systems." Elena smiled. "That would have been short-sighted. We didn't want conquest. We wanted survival. And sometimes, survival means letting your potential adversaries underestimate you until the moment when it matters most." The stars streaked as the fleet jumped to faster than light, heading toward a battle that would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. A galaxy where humanity would never again be dismissed as primitive. In the darkness of space, the legends were already spreading, of the ancient-looking fleet that had hidden the most advanced ships the galaxy had ever seen, and of the species clever enough to use their enemies' arrogance as the perfect disguise.